picture. Really the hottest nigga, you gon' respect this lava. I'm shooting it if I pull it, boy, make sure you want this drama. I bring it to you like it's Law and Order SVU. Turn you to a vegetable, now you look good inside a soup. Family come from Bishopville, but I grew up in that Bronx Zoo where they shoot you dead in the street and then dance all on top of you. And I do what I gotta do.
Started. Please don't get me started. Started.
Can I interview you real quick?
Let's go.
All right. You ain't gotta answer. Like, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. These things I would like to know, and maybe other people might know some things, but they might not know everything. At what age did you first go to jail?
I first went to jail 15. I probably got arrested 2-3 times before that, though. And they probably brought me to my mother's crib. Brought me home.
Have you always been in the Bronx?
Yeah, I was in the Bronx my whole life. Born in the hospital in the Bronx. Been in the Bronx my whole life.
Mother and father in the house?
My mother and father was together when I was born, but my pops died when I was 3 years old. Then it was just us. Until she got with my stepfather when I was 8. They still together. That's a whole nother story too. You know, I ended up getting into the streets because one, that's the only thing that was around.
Wait, no, remember, I'm interviewing you. Hold, let me stop you for 1 second. Let me stop you.
I bet.
Because I don't want to take from your story that you're gonna do later. Check this out. Let's start. Let's take it from there. Mother and father, in the house when you were born. So your father was able to see you until the age of 3.
3 years
right?
old. Yep.
3 years old, right? Do you have other brothers and sisters?
I got an older brother, Hosman, person who made this hat. He made the brand McCoy. That's my older brother. That's from my father. We his only 2 kids. He my older brother though.
Okay, so he older brother. All
he
right.
from Staten Island. He moved out of Staten Island, but he from Staten Island. I had 2 older sisters. My older sister Yvette, she still live in the city. And my
different
sister,
father, different father?
Different fathers from my sisters.
But same mother.
Same mother.
So did you grow up in the household with them too?
I grew up pretty much, yes, but you know, a good portion of my life, because they was like a certain amount of years older than me, they had their own place. Well, my younger sister, who's still older than me, she passed when I was a little bit older than me, probably like 6, 7. So she was gone. But my older sister lived like, she had another spot in Cortland or wherever she moved at. I was always back and forth between there on the weekends. My mom was just going through a thing or whatever. But they was always around. They was always around.
So at 3, right? Growing up, it's safe to say you didn't know. Did your mother end up having like a boyfriend that served as like a father figure in your house? Or was it?
My mother, she didn't bring too many men around me. So I can't relate to these other niggas who mothers was like whoring. You know what I mean? Much respect to the queens though. But my stepfather she was with since I was 8 years old.
Okay.
He's more or less a square. Not like a disc, but you know, like a square, just, you know, regular nigga. He had his own little issues. That's a whole nother story. But he been around since I was 8. Father figure, no. Because at a pivotal time I was becoming a man, he had his own little issues and demons and shit. Like niggas was drunk and all that. He not now, but I was outside trying to figure it out.
Okay, when was the first time or age that you remember that you started like thinking about your biological father and wondering about him? Or did you have that period of time like where you had questions that you just couldn't get answered in reference to your father?
Not really. My father's side of the family is pretty tight knit. Bunch of Muslims and Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, family reunions every year, shit like that. When I pulled up on them, they used to always tell me shit. They asked me for something I wanted to know. My mom's, it ain't, even after he died, it's not like nobody ever spoke about him again. Like, my mother will remind me when it's his birthday and things like that. And my brother, who's his son too, he was coming to get me. And so not really.
You ain't never have like questions like have you ever had conversations with him? Like are you spiritual on that level where you like think and talk to him?
I mean, I still think about him all the time. He probably crosses my mind at least once a day, probably for real. I got pictures of him in my house. I see his face every day. Sometimes I talk to him. Something might cross my mind. Sometimes I'll be like, I wonder what he would think of me now.
Let me ask you something. Academically, how did you do in school?
I think I was similar to you, probably a little bit more mischievous, because I was experimenting with being a bully a little bit too at that age. Being impressionable and being a little bit of a follower. But I was somebody who, for most of the time, I was a class clown, cool, joking, middle of class, flirting with the chicks, sitting in the back of the classroom, chicks got their hand in my pants, feeling on things. I was the man. I was in high school, Bronx leadership, sitting in the cafeteria, 2 girls sitting on my lap, it's in the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? That's how I was in school.
My baby mother was in Bronx leadership.
What you said?
Is Bronx leadership like all for the concourse?
Yeah, no, it's a school called Leadership Institute. I always get it mixed up. Okay. My niece went to Bronx Leadership. I went to a school called Leadership Institute after I left a school called Brandeis.
I remember Brandeis.
Yeah, I went to Brandeis. Brandeis was lit, but that's when I first got locked up. And then after I did a little bit of time, they let me out. I went back to Brandeis. I was like, this shit trash.
That's where we used to go get girls, Brandeis and Norman Thomas.
Yeah, Brandeis had hoes. But I was one of those for the most part. Like, I wasn't on no bully shit at all in high school. By that point, I'm like,
did you ever get left back, or you?
Never got left back. I was one of those, I ain't even study that much. I'm more or less like, if you know the shit, you know the shit. Go over it a couple times, you know the shit. School's never hard. Like, I don't think I ever felt in my life like, yo, school, this is really hard. Sometimes you didn't know the shit. And then I felt like school is just, you go over the shit over and over again until you memorize it right and you do it. For social studies, you go over the shit a couple times. The main important points. And you remember what you think is gonna be like relevant when you take the test. Like, I thought of it a different way. And I was a class clown. Like I said, I was fucking with the hoes.
What made you choose the streets though?
Okay. I always had exposure to the underground or like the street life, or just, I always seen shit that I wasn't supposed to see. Pretend I ain't see it. Be in places I wasn't supposed to be as a kid, getting exposed to stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember my favorite aunt doing coke right in front of me. I'm a little kid. Like, I always was exposed to shit. And first my mom tried to keep me like in the house because she was just like spoiling me. Like, I was a spoiled kid. I wasn't one of those like, I didn't have nothing I wanted. It's shit I wanted that I couldn't get. But my mom's had enough to try to keep me in the house because she knew what type of neighborhood we lived in. But I ended up going outside 13, 14 because I started getting upset because my mom and my stepfather was drinking a lot in the house. Now, it ain't the same now as what it used to be. My stepfather don't drink at all. My mother toned it down. You know what I'm saying? But it used to be bad. Like, my mom's was what you call a real functioning addict. Like, you will never know. You'll never know if she get crazy drunk on weekends and really turn up, pop on anybody. I'll be outside, shit, come outside, calling me and shit. I'm outside trying to fuck the hoes. Here come moms. Niggas like, yo, Juju. Cause you know, that's my nickname in the hood is Juju. Niggas like, yo, Juju, your mom. I'm like, nigga, I hear her. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, I end up going outside because I used to just be beefing in the house. And then once I get outside, all my other bad friends, niggas start saying shit like, it started out like playing a knockout game. Seeing random niggas running down, popping on them. Then it started to, hey, since we popping on them, we might as well rob them. So that's when niggas start robbing niggas. And it started off petty. Like niggas was stealing like little Nextels, PSPs, selling PSPs, bring it back to the hood, sell it to one of the drug dealers for like $120. Little shit like that, little chains. I remember before I got a bald head, I always like insecure about my hairline because I had like a big ass forehead. And like the box left and the right side, my shit used to get fucked up dumb early. My shit started looking like a circle, right? So I used to steal new era fitteds off niggas' heads, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Taking off their head, put it on I had like 20, 30 fitteds on my wall. My mother's like, all these new era hats, these $50. Where you getting these hats from? Where you getting these hats from? Like, I found it.
Imagine, check it out. But look at the influence of your environment though, because think about we, because my story is similar like that. So I'm saying like, imagine if we was presented a different sort of reality. Because like when I used to go see my cousin lived up in Kingston, New York. Like his reality was different from mine. I knew I wouldn't be doing half the shit I was doing if I was where he was at. But see, his mother and her opportunities was different than my mother and my mother opportunities. Like we had a lot of drunk shit going on in our family. From motherfuckers shooting needles, sniffing coke, all type of shit that I seen too. So it kind of desensitized. It's like a murderer that, you know what I mean? A nigga that was an innocent kid that ended up becoming a murderer. Sometimes will bust them open to the idea of it is seeing it happen. A nigga might get smoked in front of them. They never thought about no shit like that until they seen it could happen. You know what I mean? So they said that with King Von and a couple other rapping niggas, you know what I mean? My little man out here, he got caught up for 4 murders. He was only 17 years old. You feel me? And I know it was because he witnessed that shit growing up. You know what I'm saying? He seen something happen tragic, you know what I mean? And then he followed suit. You know?
Yeah, I feel like that's a major problem with humanity in itself is you could be desensitized to some shit and before you know it, you have a total disregard for human life. And I realized that mentally I was a part of that cycle. Like it was at one point before I did my bid when I was older and came home like 2021, I told myself I'm not going back to jail unless I'm going to jail for a murder. Like I was thinking on something, I'm probably gonna kill somebody one day. But then when I think back at it now, I'm like, yo, what type of stupid shit was I on?
Hold up, when you first went to Rikers Island, you was an adolescent, so.
Yeah, I only did adolescent.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You go to bookings, you go see the